Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live today. This is From Recognition to Retention Strategies for 2025, sponsored by Bucket List Rewards. Please introduce yourself in the comments and tell us where you're joining from. This event is proudly sponsored by Bucket List Rewards, a platform designed to enhance employee motivation and engagement through various innovative features, including custom awards, comprehensive recognition, and gamification. So before we go ahead and do our introductions, while you're introducing yourselves, we're going to introduce ourselves as well. So actually, that was kind of odd there. I think it's just because, a lot's happening in the past week. And I definitely wanted to remember to talk, kind of open the space and basically say, this is an open space for everyone. We are not non-political, but everyone has been having a lot of going on right now. So we just want to say, we're glad that you're here to join us. And this is going to be, let's say, your hour away from thinking about it for now. And I know that Jason and Tracy may say something as well to that effect. But again, thank you for joining us. And this is your space to relax and think about recognition and reward and think about the coming year and going forward. So while you're introducing yourself in the comments, we'll do some quick introductions on our end. So I'd like to introduce you to Jason Lindstrom. Jason is the CEO and founder of Bucket List Rewards, rated #1 on G2 for ease of introduction and customer satisfaction. How are you this morning, Jason?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you very much. And I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for hosting.
Thank you, Jason. And then I would like to introduce Tracy Spangenberg, Tractional Chief People Officer and Advisor with Tracy Spangenberg, LLC, focusing on transforming HR in distribution and beyond. And how are you today, Tracy?
Okay. I'm okay. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful for all of our people joining us that took an hour out of a day in a heavy week for many. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tracy. So I'm Corinne Woodman-Hollebuck, and I'm the founder of Progressive HR and also the host of Progressive HR Live. I am your host today, and I'm going to be moderating the conversation between Jason, myself, and Tracy. And then, of course, we'll be taking comments and questions from you in the audience, and we'll take those comments and questions in the flow of our conversation. We have some pre-prepared questions for Jason and Tracy, but then at the end, we'll also have an open QA and also an offer from Bucket List. So right now, I'm going to go to you, the audience, and see who's joining us today. So Joy Matthews, joining from Madison, Wisconsin. Hi, Joy. Thank you so much for joining us. Holly Carpenter from Gilbert, Arizona. This one says LinkedIn user from Nashville, but that's Catherine Dreyer. Thank you for joining us, Catherine. Anna from Arizona. Thank you for joining us, Anna. Vanessa from Ontario. We have Dara Bidwell from Indiana. Angela, and I apologize for mispronouncing the name. I think it is Lallier from Net Health from Maine. Thank you, Angela. Samantha O'Neill from New Hampshire. Maria from Chicago, Illinois. Raylyn from New Hampshire. Raylyn says, hi, Tracy. Oops. That's the one I wanted there. Tanya, excited for this. Thank you, Tanya. We're excited to get into the conversation as well. International Petra from Germany, performance coach at AR Apps. Hi, Petra. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Stephen Mandel, Stephen from Toronto. Stephen is with Bucket List. And I believe I have one more introduction to go here. And that is Shalini. Excited to see Tracy live. And I know the introductions just keep coming in. But while we're going to go ahead into our first question, I want to know from you, audience, we're talking about recognition and rewards today. recognitions and retention strategies for 2025, sponsored by Bucket List Rewards. I want to know what recognition or reward systems or platforms or initiatives you're using in your organization. And go ahead and add those to the comments, and we'll quick dive into our questions. All right, so the first question I'd like to ask Jason. Jason, what are the 2 key trends shaping employee recognition in 2025 from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I'll start off by talking about a theme that I'm seeing first and then sharing the 2 key trends. So in terms of themes, what's really interesting is that most companies are still trying to figure out rewards and recognition. So if you're on the call today and that's what you're here to learn about, just be rest assured you're not alone. It's interesting, the majority of companies have a program. However, generally speaking, they're considered ineffective. According to SHRM, almost 70% of rewards and recognition programs aren't giving HR leaders the results that they want. And so two key trends I'm seeing as we look into the future is that companies are starting to rethink the rewards and recognition strategy. They're switching from manual systems with low utilization rates. They're starting to automate things, implementing strong systems and processes, and they're getting some amazing results. They're driving up employee engagement. They're lowering voluntary turnover. And one other key theme that kind of correlates with all that is just this idea of peer recognition and manager to peer recognition, creating programs that are really inclusive where everybody can participate. So that's my 2 cents on some of the themes we're seeing right now.
Thank you, Jason. Now the question is over to you, Tracy. What 2 key trends are shaping employee recognition in 2025 for you, in your perspective?
So I used to hate the word trends. And so I've leaned into it in once I really learned the definition, kind of the way things are moving, right? Because I used to think of trends as like fashion trends. So where I think and where I see recognition and rewards moving is a couple of things, and they're pretty tied together: personalization and meaningfulness, or moments that matter, right? So when you think about it, the days of just, I'm going to recognize everybody on my team the exact same way are really over. And recognition that's hollow or just recognition for the sake of recognition doesn't make any sense anymore. So those are the 2 things that I think about when I'm either designing a recognition rewards program or when I'm working with clients on that.
Thank you so much, Tracy. We did have a little bit of a gap there in the stream. So I apologize, everyone. When the recording comes out, the gap will be filled in. So apologize for that little blip. So now I'm going to go on to the question for Jason. And I'll take this question off here. And Jason, I'll ask you, what are the business problems you're helping to solve for your clients moving into 2025? And what are the ROI is your clients seeing?
So again, yeah, great question. A lot of times when we think about rewards and recognition, or at least when I talk to senior stakeholders, members of like a senior leadership team, so CEOs, COOs, they love the gist of rewards and recognition, but a lot of them aren't aware of the true power that it can hold or contain. And to anchor and provide more context around that, like a really big theme for many organizations for 2025 is to improve employee engagement. Most companies really want to create a great culture, and I think we all intuitively know that like when employees are engaged, they're more productive, they're more innovative, you have a better business overall. And statistically, a little over 80% of businesses have employee engagement as a priority for 2025. What's interesting is employee recognition is one of the key levers or key drivers to improve employee engagement. And what we've seen when we've rolled out a well-organized, well-designed program supported by good technology is you can improve employee engagement more than 50% as a result of a good rewards and recognition program. And just as an example, we worked with a hospital, for example, called Eli Blumenson. They actually had a recognition program prior to working with us, but it's kind of old. antiquated, largely manual, like people having to submit things through a Google web form or paper slips. It didn't get used much. We helped them with a well-designed program. We relaunched it, and they saw roughly a 90% utilization, monthly utilization. So on a monthly basis, the vast majority of staff are getting in, recognizing one another for good work, for living the organizational core values. Over the period of a year, they saw employee engagement lift more than 50%. And they also saw voluntary turnover go way down, which is a big priority for a lot of organizations as well. They saw voluntary turnover dropped under 5%. And those are the sorts of numbers that a lot of senior stakeholders really care about. If you can build a great culture and then attach that to the ROI, that has a lot more significance for organizations.
Jason, what's another one of the companies that you're working with, and how are they seeing the bucket list solving their business problems and the ROI that what's their ROI?
Yeah, so in the case of what I've heard is for every 5% lift in employee engagement, that has a rough $2,500 to $5,000 in additional revenue, either gained or money saved per employee per year. So there's a huge relationship between employee engagement and revenue brought in through the door. But it's funny. There's a book called The World's Greatest Management Principle, and if you summarize it, it says what you recognize and reward, you'll see more of, which is just a fancy way of saying like what you aim your recognition program at, you can actually drive the results in. So you can help build a better culture. You can create things like sales rewards, and that'll drive up sales results significantly. You can roll out safety rewards and increase safety standards. So it's kind of like I think a superpower that you can equip leaders with, and it can improve culture and it can improve different functional areas of a business.
Now, have you seen that statistic grow over the course of the last, I don't know, let's say since the pandemic? Have you seen that statistic grow? And what are you expecting for 2025 in that?
So, I think this is kind of like a treasure box a lot of companies are starting to unlock. They're just not aware of the potential of what a rewards and recognition program can do for an organization. And so for organizations who have a well-designed, I really liked what Tracy said up front. She's like, I help companies design rewards and recognition programs and implement them. If you have a well-designed program that's well implemented, you can drive some significant results. And I think a lot of companies are just starting to understand the potential of what's available to them. Typically, when companies think about rewards and recognition, they just want to take good care of their employees, and that's awesome. Like that's the first step in the journey. But you have to anchor it into something really meaningful. And I think it's worthwhile, like when you create a program, defining some really good goals for it. Like, sure, let's increase recognition. That's super important. Let's build maybe a culture of inclusivity. Let's bring our core values alive. But then on top of that, let's drive up engagement. Let's lower turnover. Let's increase safety standards. It's super interesting. A well-deployed safety awards program can see a 22% decrease in safety incidences. And so putting cash to that would save $2.8 million for every 10,000 employees. But it also creates a safer work environment. So companies, I think they have to think a little bit more deeply about what they want to achieve with the program. Because when they do that, they can create these great programs that deliver tons of results.
Yeah, and then you would think that if you increase safety, that would create better culture, and better culture would create more retention. So it's kind of very much a complementary stack, as you would say. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the culture layer, like rolling out a really effective peer recognition system where everybody can participate is a great way to build a good culture and bring your core values alive. What we often recommend is with most companies, some companies say culturally it's not necessarily a good fit, but typically what we see is peer recognition programs are really inclusive. Everybody can join in. And often what happens is managers may not see all the great work happening on the front lines, but when all employees can join into a program, they're able to often see the great work that's happening, to call out their peers for doing a good job. And what makes it even more impactful is if you can attach a core value to that recognition, that really lifts up employee engagement and creates a great workplace.
Awesome. Thank you. I've got a question for Tracy right now, but I do want to circle back a little bit later on about the difference between peer-to-peer recognition and regular recognition programs. Thanks, Jason. All right, Tracy. So what is your advice for HR leaders who want to create or adapt recognition strategies to stay relevant and effective in this new business paradigm?
I think that this is where, like many things, we lean on our community, right? And I think, like we talked about a little bit earlier, there's not necessarily one thing that works for everybody. So I think learning what other people that have done, creating that community if it doesn't exist, and learning and going to things like this. So I hate to say it but there isn't one perfect platform. There isn't one perfect program for everybody. And I think that that's really, really important. I think Jason mentioning tying to your culture, tying to your core values is really important, but those are different for everybody. So as much as I've wanted to in the past take this thing and bring it wholeheartedly, and I know Bucket List tweaks things and you can adapt that, which is wonderful. But as much as I've wanted to bring things in the past, that's really, really hard to do. So I think, for programs, for recognition strategies, learn, lean on others, and the most important thing, I forgot to mention, the most important thing, talk to your people, that personalization, talk to your people. So I'm an introvert, I'm autistic. How I like to be rewarded and recognized is not the same as somebody who may have been sitting down the hall from me, right? And I think, I remember years ago walking into an event and everybody's cheering and recognizing that way in a very loud public way, which does not work for me. But that may be something that somebody loves. So I think getting that personalization is really, really critical as well.
Thanks, Tracy. And you bring up a very important point. Not everybody wants to be recognized the same way. For example, you said that you don't like to be necessarily, out in front of everybody, which is what I like to be, out in front of everybody and recognized. I also don't like just words. I have to have an action, not a physical thing, but an action side. And not just saying thank you. It has to be a very specific action that actually shows me that someone is recognizing me. So I think that personalization is definitely top.
I think that's the beauty of the human experience, right? We're all different and we all need different things. And I think as HR leaders, we have to be in tune to that. And we have to understand that our recognition and rewards programs have to meet the needs of various people across our company. I want to thank you and then just
and
disappear.
As we diversify
that's
more
all
and more.
Just go away, thank me, and then go away. That's all I want. So
audience, Tracy mentioned the personalization of being recognized. How do you like to be personally recognized? Go ahead and add those to the comments if you'd like to share with us. Speaking about the comments, if you have any questions for Tracy or for Jason at any time, please go ahead and add those questions to the comments and we'll take them in the flow of the conversation. We did have a question come up from Jim Hemlick, and that question is right here. And I believe this was meant towards Jason, but we'll see. Let's see. Have you seen a company that analytically/mathematically links profitability to recognition culture programs? That's a great question. I think actually both Jason and Tracy can answer that. Tracy, have you seen any companies like that?
So I have seen a lot of statistics. I spoke at a distribution conference last month, and it was on culture, and I brought in a lot of statistics linking profitability to culture specifically. And so, Jason may have more of that data, and I'm not prepared to share that now, but I'm happy to share some of that later. But there is, we know that companies that have strong cultures are more profitable. Companies that actually treat their employees well are more profitable. We know all of this. Have I done the work in my own companies or my clients? Not yet, but I think that Jim's given me an idea there.
Go, Jim. All right. Thanks, Jim, for that. Jason, what do you think? What
Yeah.
companies have you seen that are, well, I'm not going to repeat the question. Go ahead.
No, got it. Great question too, Jim. Thanks for answering. And the answer is 100% unequivocally yes, we can connect the two. We've actually created a ROI calculator for different scenarios because different companies have different goals for the rewards and recognition program. And so I'll give you a couple of use cases. And I'll also speak to the science of recognition. For example, we often talk about how recognition lowers turnover. It's a little more nuanced than that. Like recognition can lift employee engagement, can make people feel more excited to show up work, more motivated. And when engagement goes way up, when people are like captivated and excited about showing up for work, turnover goes way down. But on the back end, we have a calculator that can show you the savings by lowering turnover. We can show you the savings from an effective safety program on the dollars it can save from that. And then additionally, and really tactically, we can show the ROI of an effective sales rewards program. We've seen all sorts of use cases. We worked with this company called Chorus. They're a smaller organization, under 100 people. They launched a sales rewards program. They set aside a budget of, I think, around $2,500 for the reward. They created some structure beneath it, but it generated an extra $500,000 in sales for them. So $2.5K in, $500,000 out. That's a pretty significant ROI from a rewards and recognition program. So there's different ways you can do that. One at the very end, we're going to offer something called a recognition workshop. If you're interested in seeing some of those ROI calculators, I'd be happy to. Somebody from our team would be happy to sort of walk you through what's available and clearly articulating the ROI of a recognition program.
That's awesome. I would like to see that. Can I join?
100%. Yeah.
Can I join?
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I'm super passionate about rewards and recognition. Like I see how it creates a great culture, but then as a business leader, I know the importance of demonstrating ROI to all initiatives. And it makes me so happy to it's kind of like a double good or a double whammy. You create this great culture, and then at the tail end, you see the financial benefits of implementing a program like this. So
yeah, I'd love to learn more about that. Looking forward to the offer at the end. So we're going to go quick to the audience because a lot of people have added their what Kathy would refer to as their love language for recognition. So Kathy says that her love language is affirmations, and second is gifts. Thank you for adding that. And there's a question from Teresa, but this is I'm with Tracy. Thank you is sufficient. And well, the stream is not working for me on the other side, so I'm not sure who this is. I'm sorry. And then another LinkedIn user said, and compensation. Yep, money is important also as well. And then Tanya says, I like to have public recognition. However, I'm with you. I want to see action, but I also love personalized gifts. Great. Another action person. Jim says, thank you for answering the question. And we have another question then. So I'm going to go to the question from Teresa. Are you seeing recognition for acquiring new skills? Well, that's a very good question. For example, if your goal is to motivate more employees to develop AI skills, are you seeing employers using recognition as a means to do this? Who would like to go first?
I wouldn't say necessarily recognition, though that could be. And I think you can gamify something like this pretty well. And I think you can do that pretty well. I think that maybe AI, maybe other skills, recognition in the form of compensation. And I'm seeing, a shift in the general, this is a recognition rewards live stream, but a shift in general compensation from merit-based to, COLA plus skills-based potentially. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement here in the coming years. But I would say more of the maybe gamification to make that fun because those skills are necessary, and then compensation as people move up and upskill.
Thanks, Tracy. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of organizations rolling out rewards, some monetary, some non-monetary, like badges to support all sorts of learning initiatives. Two kind of popular themes are around safety, like I was mentioning earlier, Another really popular one is around security these days, especially with knowledge-based organizations where security is becoming paramount, and having the whole team understand security protocols and training. And you might have a security level 100, 200, 300. You can, as Tracy was saying, you can gamify that experience. You can reward and recognize each stage of the journey. And a lot of people really enjoy that type of process. And for a bonus, you can even attach some sort of basic like monetization to it, like a $5 gift card, or it can be bigger. It's really dependent upon what our organization's budget is and the priority of the training.
Make it fun.
Yeah, 100%, right? Yeah. Fun things work better.
So I have a question for Jason. We were just talking about AI and AI skills. How is Bucket List using AI to support your clients' recognition efforts? I'm really curious about this.
Yeah, so we've already implemented AI in a number of ways. The two that have been really popular with the organizations we're working with is, the first is content moderation. So in an organization with hundreds or thousands of employees, there might be quite a bit of recognition flowing through. And we can just automatically flag any recognition that might be inappropriate. So once in a blue moon, there might be somebody who uses like profanity, for example. We can just automatically catch that, shelf it, and send it for review. Another kind of popular use case is for organizations that value and prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have a DEI coach that we can plug into the platform to use more inclusive language. And just for example, like let's say there's a software engineering team, and the head of the software engineering team says, "Hey, thanks guys," to the entire team. And let's say the software engineering team's made of both men and women. We could send a gentle prompt back saying like, "Hey, next time you don't have to use the word guy, just change it to team." So there's all sorts of cool little things we can weave in using AI around content moderation and DEI. And then lastly, something that's right around the corner for us is we're releasing a coaching app, or a coaching partner in the platform. So the intent behind this, again, is as companies scale up, there's all this great work that's happening. And it's important for managers and senior leaders to be made aware of this. And I'll give you an example. We work with a hospital where somebody who's running the MRI machine did a scan. They caught a life-threatening disease for the patient. They caught it really, really early. So basically, this employee saved somebody's life just through good analysis. And the senior management only found out about that through the internal rumor mill. And they called this person out, and he became the employee of the year. But that's the sort of stuff you don't want to miss. Can you, like, this guy, this person, this man, this gentleman literally saved a person's life, and you miss out on that opportunity? You can't do that. Like, you want to alienate somebody and make them feel unimportant, miss those moments. But anyways, with AI, you can capture all those brilliant moments. You can highlight those inside of a platform. You can make the senior management team aware of all this good stuff, and then you can really call it out. And in this case, this gentleman was a really big golfer. They bought him a membership to a golf course, and it was really sweet. They had the person whose life was saved come on out and present the award. Like that's recognition done right, deeply personalized, to Tracy's point, a meaningful reward, and calling out and highlighting the right type of behaviors you want to see.
Thanks, Jason. Tracy, you had something you wanted to add here?
Oh, I love talking about AI, and I love that story, Jason, because I think sometimes we hear the negative things, and that's what a wonderful use case. And I think not just for recognition and rewards, but I wanted to show like a couple of ways that I use it. So I've used AI to analyze engagement data, and so pick out trends. I use it to come up with, here's my client, here's what I do, help me figure out some ways to help them with recognition and rewards, with whatever. So you can use it that way. And there's a company that I love called Pin. I have no tie to it. I just love it. It automates moments that matter using AI throughout the employee life cycle. And that's huge for me. It's been huge in my work because everything I do is through the lens of the employee experience. So it ties in really nicely to what we're talking about. And there's another AI company I love called Harriet that also makes it really easy, because what I'm getting at is that we have to make it easy for people. We have to make, if it's peer-to-peer, we have to make giving recognition easy. We have to make receiving it easy. Somebody mentioned it in the comments, instant, meaningful. That's all really important. It's also really important to get managers involved. And that's something we haven't really talked about yet, and get them involved, get them trained. They're so critical. We think of HR maybe creating these programs or the architect of these programs, but the frontline managers or your first level managers, they're the ones who are really going to be doing a lot of the recognition day to day.
What are some ways that you recommend getting employees and managers involved?
So one of the things that I've seen over the years you can create and Jason, you can probably speak to this much better than I could, but you can create or bring in a really wonderful recognition and rewards program. But if you don't share it, promote it adequately, if you don't train people on how to use it, if they don't know it's available, then it's not going to succeed. So just as important as the tool itself or whatever you create is how you deploy that. So I think that's really, really, really critical. And so getting managers involved in, ideally, if you're buying something, in the buying process and all the way through the process. I like to create champions within the organization. So, I've worked in organizations of some size where they're geographically spread out. So you have somebody in this location, somebody in this location, somebody in this location that understands what's going on, and that can be the champion for that throughout their whatever that location is.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tracy. Jason, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I'm gonna recognize Tracy with a thank you. Sorry, I'm doing it publicly. I broke it. No, I think it was a really good point to call out the importance of getting organizational buy-in and leadership participation. And maybe I'll just build off of what I thought was great, what I thought was a great answer you just shared, Tracy. But yeah, I would double down on the concept of creating awareness and excitement, and you can do that often with communication. So if it's a frontline organization with like posters on the wall, with communication that might be handed out via like email or whatever format works for that specific organization. So communicate it, create excitement around it. It's really important to educate leadership on the importance of recognition. And there's two parts to it. It's like showing them the tool, like making sure assuming there is a tool, making sure they know how to use it, getting them to go in early and hand out recognition in advance even once. Once somebody does something even once, they're far more likely to do it again in the future. But also educate the team on the importance of it. There's a great saying that a lot of people join an organization because it has a cool organizational brand, but we quit due to bad leadership. And one pillar of bad leadership is lack of recognition, not taking good care of your team, and letting managers know, like, nobody wants to lose an A player. Everybody hates losing a rock star employee. And if we can educate the leaders that this program is going to allow them to retain staff and have them more excited, that'll increase their chances of using a program like this. And then lastly, launching with a bang. Like, one thing we strongly advocate for is to have a launch ceremonies. And if it's one big organization, you can do like one launch. If it's a distributed organization with like a number of different centers around, the United States, around the world, you can do regional launches. And you don't have to complicate it. You can have a ton of fun with it. Something we've seen work really well is you have managers, senior leaders recognize staff. The people who like public recognition, you don't want to make this mistake of calling out somebody who doesn't like it publicly, but you recognize staff publicly. And to make it really exciting is you personalize the recognition with a really cool, meaningful reward. And I've, like, for example, I was at a tech company launch a few years ago, and there's a fellow named Dave who just happened to love motorcycles. Dave was a VP of sales, been working his tail off, coming in, working overtime, hitting this corporate sales targets. As a part of the launch ceremony, because we knew he liked motorcycles, we got him a day on a Ducati, which is a motorcycle he happened to love. It sounds like kind of big and expensive. It wasn't, but we had a photo they showed to the team at the launch. And people were getting excited. They're high-fiving one another. Dave and his manager gave each other a big hug. Like, what it showed the team is that you're recognizing outstanding work. and you're taking great care of the employee with a personalized reward. And that's how you like launch a program with a bang, with meaning. And that's it's like surfing a wave, right? If you can create a big wave and you can get up on that wave, you're going to see high utilization and you're going to see all those great results that I was referring to earlier on.
Thank you, Jason. I love your stories. You have such great stories.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We've got some audience questions. Dr. Ramesh asked, or D. Ramesh, I thought it said doctor, recognition must create lasting positive impressions. It must be real time and instant. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it has to be. I think it depends. Those are my favorite words in HR. It depends on just about everything. But I do think I have 3 kids, Gen Z kids, and while I don't like to generalize to generations, we're learning a lot about the world of work and the generation coming in, and feedback should be real time, and feedback generally should be instant. And I think where I would agree with this for sure is that if there's something that happens, saying thank you or offering a, congratulatory email or what have you, 3 months later doesn't do any good. So recognizing somebody in the moment is really, really important. So I think it would depend on what it was, but something like that I think is really important to have that right away.
Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what I heard is you want it to be timely, which is what Tracy said, agreed. You want it to be sincere. Ideally, you want to weave in a company core value where it makes sense to align it with what the company's trying to do. And I also think frequency is quite important. There's this concept of resonance, which means like, if you say thank you to somebody, that doesn't last forever. And like, my favorite way to like think the concept through is just think about it in your personal life. If you have a partner or you're in a relationship with somebody, you're married, you can't say thank you once per year, right? Like that doesn't fly, right? Or if you have kids, you can't say good job once per year. Recognition typically lasts between a week to a month. And it's like it doesn't hurt to do it a lot. There's very little downside to doing it a lot. So I think everything that was recommended, and I think frequency is something to take into account. Take into account too. You don't want to do it once. It's not a one and done type of thing.
For me, sometimes if it's too frequent, it's not meaningful. Also, so, but again, that's just personalization for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. You don't want to be, there's probably some funny jokes about this type of personality, but like, you don't want to be constantly, I think you're right. You can pump tire. The moment it becomes insincere, it's bad, right? If you're just doing it all the time, because nobody's good all the time. Things aren't always good all the time. And as much as I love recognition, like a good balance, a great leader is able to talk both about the good things that are happening in an organization, and they absolutely address the things that aren't working as well. So you gotta walk a delicate line.
I feel like that was probably a Key and Peele sketch at some point. Like you said, Jason, probably should be something like that. I think that meaningful, like it has to be sincere and meaningful, right? And Corinne, to your point, like if it's too frequent, it may not feel that way. And, it may not feel that way. I don't think it would to me either.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. So we have 2 more questions for you both, or I have 2 more questions I have 2 questions, one for Jason, one for Tracy, and then we're going to get into our audience open Q&A. And we already have some questions that have built up over the course of the conversation. But everyone knows that I'm a futurist and I love talking about the future of work. Some say we're living the future of work right now, but I really do think that the future of work is a lot different than what we're living. We're living a portion of the future of work right now. So my favorite questions that I love to ask everybody is, what are your thoughts about recognition and rewards in the future of work? So I'm talking like in 5 to 10 years. Tracy, what do you think?
Oh, this could be a whole other discussion, like a whole other day. So, and probably influenced by my friend, Josh Green, who's, wrote a book called Employment is Dead. I learn a lot from him and about what the future of work is going to look like. Right. And is employment going to be dead? I mean, who knows, but it's going to look different in 5 or 10 years. I think it's hard to conceive of what recognition or rewards will look like, because I think the workplace is going to be looking completely different. We're seeing not just younger people, but people like me leave the workplace and carve out their own path. And what does that mean? So what does that mean when your workplace is made up of more contractors than employees? And how do you recognize them? How do you recognize them? Do you recognize them in the same way as your employees? They're not employees, right? If you are outsourcing work, or if you are, if you're a person who's stringing together a bunch of different jobs, does recognition change for you, or how you like to be recognized? So I think we're probably going to lean more on money. I think we're going to lean more on, project-based recognition, because I think work is going to become more project-based for a lot of people. And I think it's going to become maybe a little bit more transactional. So it'll be interesting. So that didn't answer your question really at all, but that's what work's going to look like. And I don't know what recognition will look like. I'm very curious.
Yeah, I would love to actually talk with you about that. Maybe
we're talking a couple weeks. Yeah,
in a couple weeks we're talking again.
Yeah.
Jason, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll sort of tap into like a theme or an important topic related to that question. And for example, a lot of time I do a lot of talking about culture building and recognition. And one question I get asked all the time is, does recognition always work? And the question normally comes from like a CEO of like a steelworkers organization, right? He's like, I got a bunch of gentlemen, his language, a bunch of dudes out in the field, primarily heavy male skew. These guys are in coveralls. They're using welders. Like, is it going to work in my organization? And the answer is always yes. There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It describes the theory of human motivation. And at the bottom of this pyramid is like food and shelter. The next level up is a desire to be appreciated, loved, and respected. And like you see recognition programs in the US military, they're highly effective for creating these hero myths inside of organizations. You see them all through history. You see them in the best movies. Recognition always works. It's timeless. So when I squint into the future, recognition is so deeply tied into human DNA, it's not going anywhere. It can't go anywhere. Sorry, unless we get plugged into the matrix in some weird future state, but like that's not a future I want to dream of. So like in my known universe, I'd call recognition timeless, and it's kind of beautiful, right? Like for those of you out there who are listening who are parents, like we all know that there's a carrot and stick to parenting, right? You see your kids do something great, good, you praise them. The same thing applies to adults. But then thinking like tactically how I see some cool things kind of shape up and what are some trends. I don't know if I have the ability to think 5 years out, because I spent a lot of time thinking about AI and how it's and robotics and its impact on the workplace. And it's going to be a very interesting next 3, 5, 10 years for all of us. I'm an optimist. I think I'm like 80% confident it'll all be good. But if I was to think a little bit nearer term, some things that we're doing and seeing is there's this concept of AI and doing deep analysis of data sets. And what we're already starting to see, what we're starting to do is this idea of creating like pre-built award catalogs. Like a lot of organizations, as Tracy said, have tackled rewards and recognition before. It's something that I think is pretty cool is like we're doing this deep data mining. We're seeing which rewards and reward programs are the most effective for specific industries. And we're kind of providing these catalogs that people can pick from. So if you're a hospital, and community outreach and patient care and safety is important to you, you can browse a list of awards. You can quickly add those to your platform. And we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting and thinking for people these days. If you're a tech company, maybe creating a great culture, lowering customer churn, driving sales is important. Again, you can add like a sales reward, a customer satisfaction reward, NPS reward. Anyways, we're going to make it easier. It's going to become easier for companies to roll out highly effective programs that are directly attached to a return on investment. That's what I sort of see as a near term, 6 months to 1 to 1.5 years out. And then I think that concept of Tracy's personalization, I think you're going to see some deeply personalized recognition and rewards. It's going to get easier to understand what people want and how to recognize them. So you should see a lot more dreams coming true, both on the small scale and large scale. Just for example, in healthcare, it turns out that a lot of healthcare workers work incredibly long hours. They're often really stressed out, and giving them some time off, rewarding them with wellness. So like a half day off, full day off, sending them to the spa, that can be a really meaningful reward. And that applies to a lot of healthcare workers, not all, but many. But bringing those sorts of insights to a rewards and recognition program are going to make it far more curated, personalized, and meaningful to the recipient. So those are just a couple of themes I see: pre-built award catalogs and deeply personalized rewards.
I love that.
I think, I think me too. One of the things that I think about is that, this question is, if we're using AI to be more personalized, are we also at the same time being more inauthentic because we're kind of manipulating it? So I don't know. I love AI. I think AI is great. I think that it's going to help our world more. But I do wonder if it's going to be, would it be considered inauthentic if we're not actually thinking about it ourselves and we're having a helper?
So I think it depends on how you use it, right? I use it as a thought partner. I don't use it to write. So if I have, some help in something, I'll rewrite it in my own voice, because no matter how much you train it, it really doesn't sound like you. And I think that the worry for people who use it a lot is that is eventually what you sound like to the public, right? And so I think there's that danger for sure. But I think it's finding that balance of how do we work together? How does the AI become our, assistant or co-pilot, if you will? How does that happen without us losing our humanity?
Yeah, I would 100% agree.
Jason?
You know what? I think about AI, it's kind of like Google Maps. Remember back in the day, Google Maps was really clunky and like not everybody would use it. But over time, everybody nowadays, like you drive to the local grocery store, many people now turn on Google Maps or Apple Maps, depending on my preference to get there. I think that's a path AI is going to take. And I think to Tracy's really valid point, it's going to be more of a co-pilot. It's not going to tell us how to shift gears or change lanes necessarily. Actually, sorry, maybe it will with Teslas. Maybe the metaphor is slightly flawed, but in the medium term, I really do see it as a co-pilot, and I don't think it'll hurt the authenticity at all. It's almost like how I could go when I want to buy a present for my wife. I might talk to her. I should know this, but I still ask her friends for advice. It's similar to that. It's asking for advice on how I should recognize this person, and so I don't suspect it'll hurt authenticity.
Thank you. I think that's very, very, very helpful thoughts from both of you. And I do like, Tracy, how you're saying you use AI as a thought partner. I don't think I've heard someone say that before. As a co-pilot, yes, but not as a thought partner. So thank you for that. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, I love Perplexity. I feel like you and I have talked about this because we've talked about AI before. You taught me about hallucinations, which is something I totally should have known like 2 years ago, but I didn't. If you have a presence online, a tool like that can research you and can help you as a thought partner, right? So you can be your thought partner. So I can say, I'm Tracy Spangenberg, please research me. I'm looking to do X. How might I approach it? So that's one way that I use it as a thought partner.
Awesome. So I'd love to get into this conversation more, and maybe we'll have time after Jason talks about the workshop that he'd like to offer. And as well, we're going to have a person, Jenna from Bucket List, come on and talk a little bit about a gift for everyone. So I'm going to bear with me very quickly, everyone, while I change my screens and show up some QR codes. With that, Jason, would you like to talk a little bit about the workshop you have coming up?
Yeah, it's funny. I do a lot of speaking on the topic on kind of rewards and recognition. And behind the scenes, I've been running these rewards and recognition workshops, typically for CEOs and senior leadership teams. But just recently, I thought that these could apply to a broader group of people. And so we're going to make these rewards and recognition workshops available to the attendees of this session. Historically, we charge $800 for these sessions, but we're going to open it up because I think there's a lot of value. We're going to compress them in time a little bit, but I still think we're about to offer a ton of value in those. So the first QR code, if you want to request a recognition workshop, will help you build a really great strategy We'll share tips on how to set up a good awards system. We'll share insights on the most popular rewards by industry. And ultimately, we'll teach you how to build a good business case. Because I know a lot of people leaders, a lot of HR leaders are trying to figure out how to convince their senior leadership team to get on board with a program like this. We're more than happy to provide guidance and advice on that too. The outcome is you get like a kind of a 30-page customized strategy that I think you're going to love. So if you want to take advantage of that, give the first QR code a quick scan. I think you're gonna love it. We across the boards, we've only had 10 out of 10s on this, and we've done about we've met with 25 to 30 people so far. It's been a great success. And then I'll turn it over to Jenna, I think, to talk about the
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for the Passover there, and really great conversations happening today. Loved listening in. And yeah, hi everyone, I'm Jenna. I'm super excited to be here today. Really passionate about helping organizations make employee recognition meaningful. Just wanted to let you know that I'm always happy to chat more about how you can enhance your recognition efforts. If you'd like to continue the conversation and learn more, please feel free to book a quick conversation with our team. We're always happy to help. And as mentioned, as a thank you, you will receive a gift when you book and attend a call with us. Ultimately, just looking forward to connecting with you and chatting more about what a robust recognition program could look like for your organization. Thanks so much. I'll pass it back to you, Jason or Corinne.
Thanks, Jenna. So Jenna will be in touch after the event with the recording of this event if you would like to rewatch or share with your colleagues. And she'll also be giving out some more event resources. And she'd love to share a little bit more as well with you about the special offer that she just talked about. So thanks again, Jenna. All right. So again, bear with me as I take the screen share off. Oh, there we go. That worked out pretty slick. Jenna, I'm going to move you to the foreground now. All right. So we've got about 8 minutes left in our conversation, and I would like to talk a little bit about some of the questions that we have coming over. So we have about 4 questions, and I'm going to do a quick search here because there was one from Priya. Priya says, at my company, monetary recognition is pre-taxed and not many employees appreciate it. Have you seen similar instances, and what's your advice to HR leaders for, now, Priya, are you in the United States, for example, are you talking about bonuses as opposed as monetary recognition or other types of monetary recognition? Tracy, would you like to add to this?
Yeah. So in the US, anything that's not de minimis, which, I've always worked with the finance to figure out, it's generally $25 or so, it is taxable. And so what I've done in the past is say, gross it up. So if you want to recognize somebody with $100 reward, you gross that up to 150 or you. So yes, because you could run the risk of giving somebody $100 bonus and they're really effectively getting $70. So that is definitely an issue. And that's one, I'm not a tax expert. Check with your attorney, check with your finance department, check with your tax people, but that is an issue.
Jason, do you have any advice on this?
No, I would just absolutely agree with what Tracy said. It's best to gross it up. Obviously, each company can take their own strategy, their own approach to it. You don't have to gross it up, but just what I always say, and I'm going to double down on Tracy's point of view, put yourself in the shoes of the recipient or your employee. You do a great job. Somebody says thank you. You save somebody's life. Like the example I gave earlier, you give them $500, $1,000, $100, whatever, and they don't get the full amount. It's like, people, it's optics. They get the sense that somebody's reaching into their wallet and taking money out of it. So just be careful with how you deploy the program. And that's why I think grossing it up can be good, or there's ways on the back end. If you're going to pre-tax stuff that you don't have to show them the full amount, just optically, whatever they're supposed to get, let them see it. So maybe it's the value's $100, but they ever see $75. That's fine. As long as the 75 is what they expect and see, that is another option as well.
Gosh, I wish that they did that when we were giving out bonuses when I was working as a CHRO, because it was really hard to give employees $100 bonuses and then they get $60 out of that because bonuses are taxed. If you you label it as a bonus, it's taxed more than it actually is if it's just regular monetary reward. So I wish that the accountant would have come up with grossing it up. So thank you for that advice. We have another question from Abhinva. I apologize. Abhinava. Having lived in both the US and in India, thank you culture is one that is not so prevalent in India. How would you drive such a culture at work without making it seem forced by my employees? I also think this is a great question. Jason, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I can't speak to your specific organization. And I have no doubt what you're saying is true. I'll share 2 data points from my point of view. We actually have like thousands of employees using our platform in India, and we still see really good utilization rates. My wife is actually Sikh and or South Asian, and I know the culture of recognition applies with her and her family as well. But again, I'm not discounting what you say at all. Like I believe what you're saying. I think there's speaking more broadly, if we see this, it sounds like both geographically, but I do see it in some cultures as well. Like some leadership teams, some CEOs naturally value recognition, and recognition programs will just thrive if leadership buy into it, as Tracy said earlier. To make a program effective, you need leadership buy-in, and it kind of it anchors into what I was mentioning earlier about educating the team on the importance of it, and making each leader understand that if they do this, how they personally benefit from it. They'll have a happier team that sticks around longer with lower turnover. And then there's all sorts of things you can do on the technology side as well. There's all sorts of prompts, compulsion loops. Our platform works very similar to like social media, where we can send out gentle reminders and nudges to remind people if they're not recognizing their team and staff. So there's lots of things you can do to educate the leadership team, and then there's lots of things you can do to gently nudge and remind team members to recognize staff as well. That's kind of my 2 cents on that question, which is a very good question, by the way. And Tracy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because I've spent most of my career world isn't that way, and the world of work isn't that way. So I think in my last couple of companies had people working in India, and you learn the culture and you respect the culture, whether that's India, the US, somewhere else, right? And so that gets back to personalization. So if you have team members in various countries and they receive recognition or want to receive recognition in different ways, what you have for your US employees might not work for what you have for your employees in India. That may need to be tweaked slightly. And I think that personalization becomes really important when we're talking not just company culture, but geographic cultures.
Thank you, Tracy. So we're coming up to our last minute of the stream. So I would like to thank Audience You First for joining us today. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, today is a day that we're opening up space for everyone just to be themselves and to join a conversation that is relaxed, and hoping you have a great rest of your day. And then I also want to thank both Jason and Tracy for joining me on this conversation to share your talent and your insights and help our audience with their rewards and recognition. And lastly, I'd like to thank Bucket List Rewards for your sponsorship of this stream, and for also the gifts and the workshop that you're providing for our audience attendees. And now, audience, you can go ahead and follow Bucket List Rewards and Recognition on LinkedIn. That's how you would look it up, Bucket List Rewards and Recognition. You can also follow Jason Lindstrom, and you can follow Tracy Sparrenberg on LinkedIn. And if you want more information for Bucket List, you can go to bucketListRewards.com. And also we'll be in touch afterwards with more information. And I appreciate you all for joining us today. Thank you again for joining us, and have a very wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.